Hello? Oh, that'll do it. Check, 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 check. So we're calling the meeting to order. We have enough for quorum today, and hopefully a few more will join us. So I'm going to begin with a roll call. Leslie Malden, hello. I'm here. Stephanie Ford.
Present.
Gretchen. Bonnie Zahn Griffith.
Here.
Randy B. Funk. Jessica Peters.
Present.
Jennifer Sullivan.
Present.
Jay Wilson. And Joe Borton. Hopefully a few more will join us shortly. So, are there any changes to be made, Hillary, that you need to comment about? Neither for me either. It looks great. So, with that, we'll have a motion to adopt the agenda, and then I'll read the mission.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it is the mission of the Meridian Arts Commission to develop, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. And with that in mind, we'll move into what is our annual meeting, and we'll start with the approval of the December 13th, 2018 minutes, unless there's something that needs to be brought out for clarification. If not, we would consider a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we get to the thing that we do every year. We have the chair and the vice chair elections, also the two required executive positions for the Meridian Arts Commission. So I don't remember, when I do this on my other board, we put a proxy chair in to run the chair, but I don't see that here. Is that not necessary, Emily? To have a motion to, without a vice chair, it would have to be a member at large appointed to act as chair to run the chair voting. We don't need to do that. Okay, well, that's the next order of business is election of officers. And I'm just going to read this directly. Meridian City Code directs us to hold elections at the first meeting of each calendar year. And our bylaws state that officers of the commission shall include the commission chair and the commission vice chair. I will now take nominations from the floor for the office of chair.
I move that Leslie is chair.
Seconded.
There's been a motion and a second. Leslie Malden has been nominated for the office of chair. Are there any other nominations for chair? Really? Seeing none. The nominations for chair are now closed. I will now take nominations from the floor for the office of vice chair.
I move that Bonnie is vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will now take, are there any more nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I propose that we vote on the nominations as a slate and by acclamation, since both nominees are running unapproved. Is there a motion to elect Leslie Malden as chair and Bonnie Zahn Griffith as vice chair for the year?
Madam Chair, do we need to ask if they accept those nominations before voting? As long as they're, I'm assuming they approve.
Yeah.
And nobody is speaking up, so. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we're fine going forward.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But thank you for giving us that option.
That was a good option.
Madam Chair, I move that we elect Leslie Malden as chair and Bonnie Zahn Griffith as vice chair.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well, onward and upward. Thank you. Thank you. So we will move on then to the fire station number 6, request for proposals. And
It's me. I'll pull up
Hillary.
the RFP anyway. I can go over some highlights. But Jessica, if at any time you want to jump in to clarify something, feel free. So it's set up pretty similar to our other proposals of the past. I sent your guys' packet out to you very late, but if you did review the draft that was included in the packet. I've highlighted changes that were made since then. So this draft that's in front of you now is what I would be looking for your approval to move forward to City Council to get their approval before we release this RFP. So I will actually just leave this up for a moment and give you guys a second to read through this front part. But essentially the RFPs for Fire Station 6, the intention is to have artwork installed between the building and Overland Road. And I included some information about the fire department, but essentially we want the piece to be freestanding and related to the service the fire department does. It doesn't need to be something that's really out of the box that wouldn't support the fire department, so we want to make sure that it highlights the work that they do.
Could you scroll down so that if everyone's ready? Thank you.
This is the kind of area right here
Okay.
that this paragraph was meant to address.
Everyone ready to scroll?
Another big change from the draft that was included in the packet, and this was just the wording of this section for recommendation to council. So essentially we were trying to communicate that a selection committee will select one of the proposed projects, much like the panel that met last night. Actually, panel might be the preferred word. We'll go through and make changes to reflect a panel. And that panel would consist of MAC people, possibly other city staff, and then some representatives from the fire department. I would guess that probably Max Jensen would be one of the city staff. He's the head of our building department. Might end up being the project manager for that project, so I think he'd want to be included. So that panel would consist of that group of people, and then they would come up with a recommendation for MAC to consider, and then MAC, as the recommending body, would recommend a proposal forward on to City Council.
All right. You know, I just realized that one of the things about having our subcommittees makes it easier for us to be informed and choose who would represent MAC, because it'll be our public art subcommittee, right? So that's fantastic, a good use of showing how that streamlined our process.
Other people are interested in being on that panel, though. It doesn't have to be exclusive.
Closed,
yeah.
Right. I think this looks good.
And then one of the things that we adjusted just from initial conversation was to make sure that there's plenty of time in between deadline for initial proposals, which is March 15th, and then the deadline between, that and when they would present, when they would present to the selection panel. So that gives them a good, I think, month and a half to know that they've been selected to prepare a presentation and then have something to present. So hopefully that's enough time.
Are there any comments on that from the visual arts? Do you think that's a good timeline? Bonnie?
Do you think that basically a month is long enough to, from the call to artists proposal to the deadline for submission on the 15th of March, and that's
You think that's too long?
6 weeks is, I'm thinking that that's pretty short, but is that what you've used in the past, Hillary?
I think that is kind of what we've used in the past. I modeled the initial timeline after a previous public
Right.
RFP that we've put out. We have had more interest in public art now that we've been doing more RFPs, so I think that will also help us kind of spread the word faster. And then I can also make sure that it's posted through the City of Boise's public art opportunities page, which I think gets a lot of traffic as well.
Right.
That's just for their handwritten proposal, right? That's not for the,
Yeah, it's not for like a maquette or yeah.
Yeah, the maquettes, they have a couple of months
yeah,
to,
that should be.
from when the finalists are notified. Okay, Hillary, thank you for your work on this. I think this looks good. So with the changes that she made, changing committee to panel,
Don't have permissions to say.
and yeah, selected June 19th. Not selected, non-selected. Right. So, good. Is there any further discussion, questions? Should we move forward with this proposal timeline and RFP? Am I getting the RFP? Okay, good. So that done, do we need to approve that to go forward?
Need a formal approval.
Or is that?
No, I
you
don't
don't
think
need
you
any
need
approval.
a formal, no.
Yeah. So great, good work. And let's move on then to the park identity public art proposals for Champion and Renaissance parks.
Yes.
And that would be Jessica.
Yeah, so the panel met yesterday afternoon to evaluate the proposals that we received. And this is for the park identity art for Champions Park, which is in North Meridian, and Renaissance Park, which is in South Meridian. And we received 3 submissions for each of the parks, for a total of 6 submissions. And we chose for Champion Park, which, the theme is sports related, and all the streets in the neighborhood are named after local coaches and other notable people in sports. So we chose a project called the Champions Flame, which was proposed to us by Trademark. And we're checking on the total height of the final piece that will be put in the park. But basically it's modeled after the Olympic torch. So it'll look like a large flame. They had proposed, there you go. They had proposed to have lights shining on it, shining from the base up at night. You can see kind of in the bottom there are lights. And we're also inquiring whether they could fabricate it in a way so that visitors can turn it so that it spins, so it has some extra impact and is more interactive with folks. So that's going to go into Champions Park. And then for Renaissance,
That's gorgeous.
yeah, they said that the outside, it's kind of hard to tell in the colors in here, but the outside will be kind of a bright red flame, and the inside will be a very shiny, gold or bronze color there. Shows the color a little bit better. So it'll really have an impact as you're driving by, especially at night when the lights are on and it's really reflecting the light. So that'll be a neat addition to that. Hillary, that includes the new signs too? Is that right?
Yeah.
So their proposal also includes a new sign for the park, still going with the theme, so you can see what that'll look like there. That's where the current sign is, so it'll be a little bit more unique to the park and really add to the identity of the park. And so at Renaissance Park, the piece chosen was from Ken McCall, who also did the piece at Heroes Park. And so this is called Illuminations, and it's going to be 3 panels, the tallest of which is 20 feet tall, and the next one I think is 16 feet, and then 11 feet tall. 15 and then 11 feet. So it's 3 panels celebrating the sort of ideas that came from the Renaissance era. So the Vitruvian Man representing science, and then Creation of Adam, which is that, the painting that's in the Sistine Chapel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Stradivarius violin and quill and ink, obviously representing music and writing. And so the way that these will be oriented in the park, there will be a marker in front of the lowest one as well that you can kind of see there. And the intent is that on the spring equinox, the sun will be at the right angle to shine through the 3 medallions and project those images of the medallions onto the ground in front of it. And it'll be flat. It'll be a concrete pad that's flat so that it'll be ADA accessible, and people can walk or roll through there and kind of get a sense of the arches as they're going underneath. So, these were all of the submissions were really great. We were excited to see all of them, and it was a hard choice. But these were the 2 that were chosen, and so now we're going to move forward with working with the artists to get them fabricated, and in the case with the Champions Park to see if we can tweak the design to have it spin. And we'll move forward with having those placed in the park sometime in this fiscal year.
I think this one's particularly interesting too, because they've taken a very typical the Renaissance women wore those hats that had, and it looks like
it's a big crown.
It looks like a headpiece, a section of the Renaissance headpiece. It's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Love it. Thank you.
So this is one that we would like a motion from you guys to approve both of these panel selected proposals to be recommended to City Council for installation at Champion and Renaissance Parks.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I do have one quick question. Mm-hmm. Do we have a maintenance plan? Are the artists going to kind of maintain, or is the city?
I believe it's up to the Parks Department to handle maintenance.
Okay.
So, and that's we're working with the Parks Department when it comes to the Parks Identity projects. So it's their intent that they will be maintaining the art that's placed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. Good question. Are there any more questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add
Hillary.
to that too. When we close out any public art project, the artists submit a maintenance plan to us. So we haven't necessarily created like a database to help us track all the maintenance, but they do recommend what kind of maintenance the materials used need. And then for this piece in particular, Ken McCall did point out that if, for instance, if something happened to this panel here, just that one panel could be removed and he could fix it. So nice. That is something that's kind of nice. You wouldn't have to take or decommission the whole piece. So just 2 notes about maintenance for you there as well.
I have a question about that. When they submit, the artists submit those instructions and their recommendations, do they keep in mind that it's not an art provider that's doing the maintenance, but that it's, I wonder if they word it so that it can be read by people who aren't art specialists, but who are specialists in maintenance. Does that make sense?
Madam Chair, yes. Mm-hmm. They, in our experience, they're really easy. So, for example, CJ Wrench, I think, recommended, what's that product? It's like Armorall or something, like you would clean your car, the inside of your car. So it's, and they're all really kind of like that. I think the lobby art recommends Pine Sol, so they're definitely like easily accessible, and the parks maintenance staff would not have any issue with them. So that's been our experience. I think that really comes at the front end, selecting art that doesn't require extreme maintenance responsibilities. Yeah. Typically we do.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. That's one of we're really, I'm really happy with our system that we do there, because one of the main things that was talked about at NowPac was ongoing maintenance and how many people have problems. So it seems like we're ahead of the game on that. We really are taking care of it. So yay, thank you. Are there any more questions, comments? If not, we would consider a motion.
I move that we accept the designs for the 2 parks.
For Champion and Renaissance Park.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks again, Jessica. All right, so this is a fun topic. I think the Mayor's Award in the Arts. We'll wait for that to
that's
come up.
So I had called the
Bonnie?
the mayor's office in Coeur d'Alene because we had received a copy of the awards that they do. They do 4 awards a year: one for an artist, one for supporting artists, one for an art educator, and one for a student, a high school student. And those awards are given annually. People apply for them on their own, and so I called the administrative assistant to the mayor and found out a few different things. So they, like I said, they use an application process. It's posted on their website. Their selection, their awards are done in the fall. So I think their selection committee or their selection process starts earlier in the year, of course. The selection is done initially by the commission or a part of a committee of the commission, and they give their recommendations to the mayor for their final approval of who gets the awards. And then the awards are not monetary, but they're a piece of art that a local artist is selected to provide, and they're given a stipend of $100 for each of the 4 pieces.
I like that.
And the awards go to, it's not necessarily it's any art, so it can be a visual artist, it can be a performing artist, it can be any kind of an art.
Any genre.
Mm-hmm. And the awards, of course, are some sort of visual art.
Yeah. Not somebody just singing you a song. And
No, I guess not. And they do these awards annually at their Art from the Heart event, which is a similar event to our Art Week, except that they've been doing this event for 20 years, so it's much more elaborate. And so they do this event on the Saturday of the end of their Art Week or their program, and it's at the Hagendorn Event Center, and so it's a huge deal. I mean, and their budget for the event from the Arts Commission is $2,500, and that basically covers hors d'oeuvres. So you can kind of tell it's a pretty monumental event. And then, so that's the basis of those 3 awards, which I thought were great, and I think that would be something to look at for the city of Meridian. And the the Art from the Heart. Some of the things that they do, because of the downtown design and location of galleries, etc., in Coeur d'Alene, it's pretty compact. And so they do a lot of things with the galleries. For instance, one of the things that they did was a gallery had a model, and then there were several artists, visual artists, doing portraits of this model, and art walks, etc. So it's just on a bigger scale than what we've done, but doesn't mean that we can't get there. Amy, the person that I talked to, said that they typically get pretty good response, except for the student art awards. And last year, they only had one applicant. I thought, because we've got the West Ada, that's kind of a built-in group to select from. So I thought it was a great idea, and I guess I'm just curious to see if anybody else has any similar thoughts, and if that's something that we should propose. And
thank you, Bonnie. I absolutely love this idea, and I think I can just see it as becoming one of the cornerstone events amongst the many events that we're going into in Art Week. I just think it would be, thanks for doing this research. Yeah. I think this is a wonderful idea. And I love that the award given to the recognized people is art as well, from a local artist. There's a stipend provided, but I think that's a very, very appropriate gift too. I just love this idea. I'm all in.
Madam Chair, Bonnie, yes. You brought that up about getting like the response, and my question was going to be, what would be, I think it's a great idea, what would be the best method for advertising and getting that out there, especially starting out on a first year, so that the artists know about it? Do you have some suggestions regarding that?
I think, I mean, just off the cuff, I think that just putting it on our website and, you know, I put a call to artists out. However, Hillary, who else do you put it on the website and social media and
we do MailChimp email type newsletter distribution as well. And this is something too that we could depending on what you want your scope to be. If you want to just be Meridian, we would just leave it Meridian. But if it was something that eventually you wanted to spread out to the Valley, we could share that with, you know, the Eagle Arts Commission and Boise Commission on the Arts, or Boise Arts Commission. But it might be a nice idea when you first implement this to focus on just Meridian too, because Meridian does have a number of highly talented artists, and it would make the most sense to recognize those people as we embark on a program like this. So we could use a number of different media to get the word, and I could work with Casey in our communications department to help spread the word too, and get people to realize that this is something they could apply for or be nominated for, if that's the direction you'd like to go.
So the database from Initial Point Gallery, Meridian artists, we could use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could send it to everybody that's showed in our gallery, or that's applied for in public art type of applications.
That was kind of going to be my question, is we have quite a few avenues for the visual arts. You'd mentioned including like performing arts and additional types of genres of art, and I just wondered,
literary.
Yeah, how to get out to those, to reach to those.
We can advertise it at the concerts on Broadway. It can be
that
mentioned,
would be good.
And we can, you know, spread it out there. We can also, and it'd be fun to highlight it with any of our Art Week, because Art Week we kind of have a mail. You know, we've kind of gotten the advertising going for Art Week. Art Week is getting more known. You know, people are starting to understand it. So we can say, what's new in Meridian Art Week this year? And that, you know, and so we can kind of highlight it as part of Art Week and as an addition to. So we can come up with, I'm sure Casey could help a lot on that. But yeah, we can give it a big shout out at the concerts on Broadway as well.
And maybe even initially, I don't know that there would be anything wrong with just nominating people from within Meridian without even putting a call out. I guess that'd be would we put a call, or would we have it be a presentation? I don't think it would need to be a call, actually. If
we could ask for nominations, and then people from the commission could nominate artists that they know as well. Because that might be the easiest way to make it still open to the public, so the public could nominate whoever. But if, for instance, if we couldn't get the range of media to hit everybody possible, then you do still have people that you could be awarding or recognizing in that first year.
I think the first year that might be the easiest way to go till we've kind of gotten have it established. And then my next question is, since it says the mayor's awards in the arts, these nominees, will they need to also be approved by city council, of course? Because it does carry that.
I don't know if they'd have to be approved by city council specifically because it is the mayor's award in the arts. It's not city council's award in the arts. Okay. But they would need to definitely be approved by the mayor.
Okay.
So I think the best way to do it, depending on how many nominations are generated, is to, again, maybe have a panel. If Mayor Tammy can sit in on that, great. But if not, we could at least recommend a portion of those to her to review and make the final selection or approval.
Right. Good.
Would council want to?
So we're thinking then the proposal is, or what we're talking about is adding this as an item to our Art Week this year. Is that correct? And that we would use the Meridian Arts Commission to nominate for this first year, as well as make it available to the public, and so that they can bring people forward as well. We will not send out an RFP or do anything like that. We would just make it a nomination process. And yeah, thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
That's a great idea. Is there anything else we need to clarify, Hillary?
No, I just want to clarify with you guys that the mayor also has to approve this concept before we can do it. So I'll bring this up, Leslie, with you and Mayor at our next agenda setting meeting and get her feel on it.
Very good.
The 4 current categories that Coeur d'Alene does make sense. So if we can do that, great. But if that's maybe too much on her plate, we could parse it down or talk about how to pare it down. But we'll suggest it with the 4 and with this format for nominating the first year.
Okay.
And we'll see what her response is.
Yeah, well, it does say the mayor's award, so she would definitely need to be on board. Oh, good. But thanks for bringing that to us. And once we've spoken with the mayor, can we have this on our, depending on if we need it on our next agenda, if she is on board, then we'll take action then at our February meeting. Okay, so moving on to the Strategic Plan Committee report. It's very fresh in our minds because we just met yesterday afternoon. So we've chosen to focus most of our efforts, and particularly at this meeting, we focus our efforts on the City Council presentation, and we had Stuart Weiser from the Idaho Commission on the Arts come and give us a presentation that we've spoken about it several times. It's Americans for the Arts has done a comprehensive statistical analysis of the fiscal impact of nonprofits and arts and communities, and it's just absolutely well studied. They have national level statisticians that have worked on it for 20 years, and their most recent addition is a wonderful 2-minute video kind of explaining what, instead of the person presenting having to start from point A to point B and say this is what they've done. They have a couple of videos that are also available now that you can that use as a preface to the data and analysis section of the presentation, and it's just surprising the actual numbers that come out of their very, very well studied and analyzed tool. That you can give aggregate numbers from a community. You can give, for instance, with the city of Meridian, we could use the Meridian Symphony Orchestra, the Treasure Valley Children's Theater, concerts on Broadway, Art Week. How many people we estimate are at each of these? If there's ticket sales involved, there's a rubric that, well, there's just spaces to fill that you just put in your statistics, and it works a statistical analysis considering everything that goes on with the arts. Each patron of the arts buys gas for their car. Many times they hire babysitters. Many times they have a drink or get food. They've really, really put a lot of money and years into this research to come up with this statistical analysis for fiscal impact, and it's just wonderful. And Stuart's willing to come and give a section of our presentation, and it's a wonderful PowerPoint with we use all the the new updated technology here and make it very clear. And he's done it for the chamber. The first time I saw this presented was at the Meridian Chamber of Commerce. And Mark Hoffland and I were sitting there listening to it. They used the Shakespeare's, and we just stared at one another. Mark said, wow, I'm impressed. But it's very, very well studied. And so that will, if everyone's on board with that, we'll use Stuart to come and give a section of our presentation. And I would recommend it. Jennifer was there as well. Do you have any insights that I left uncited?
I think you covered it. We could watch the video as a group today. It's about
like
2 minutes, unless that takes too much time.
Oh, I think we should.
Okay.
That's, we said last night when we saw this, that's almost like concerts on Broadway. Almost exactly.
Yes, inspiration and joy, and they make our communities beautiful places to live and to work. But there's more. Nonprofit arts and cultural organizations are also businesses. Nationally, the arts generate $166.3 billion in economic activity. Dinner and a show go hand in hand. When we go to an arts event, we often begin the experience with a meal. We pay for parking, go out for dessert or drinks after the show, and return home and pay the babysitter. The average attendee spends $31.47 per person, and that doesn't even include the cost of admission. Out-of-towners and tourists spend even more. All that spending is good for local businesses and good for the economy. Nationally, the arts support 4.6 million jobs. The arts, creating better places to live, supporting jobs, generating government revenue, and the cornerstone of tourism. The arts mean business. Learn more on the new Arts and Economic Prosperity Study at americansforthearts.org/economic impact.
Watch this next one too.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Randy Cohen, Vice President of Research and Policy at Americans for the Arts, and I'm here to talk to you today about Arts and Economic Prosperity 5, our new economic impact study of nonprofit arts and culture organizations and their audiences. Arts and Economic Prosperity 5 changes the conversation about the arts from one of arts as a charity to the idea of arts as an industry, one that promotes quality of life and provides economic benefits to the community. Arts and Economic Prosperity is the most comprehensive study of its kind ever conducted. We studied 341 regions across the country in all 50 states plus DC. The bottom line, in communities large and small, the arts make an economic difference to their community. We focused only on nonprofit arts and culture organizations. We didn't include Broadway, we didn't include the motion picture industry or individual artists. All an important part of the cultural ecology, just not part of this study. Why only nonprofit? Well, if you look at where most charitable giving goes, where most government investment in the arts goes, it's going to those nonprofit cultural organizations, and it's appropriate to ask the question, in addition to improved quality of life and more culturally rich communities, what's the ROI on that investment? And that's what we set out to find out in this study. What did we learn? Nationally, nonprofit arts and culture industry is a $166.3 billion industry. That's billion with a B. Now that figure is composed of two numbers, spending by arts organizations as well as the event-related spending by arts audiences. Spending by the organizations themselves, $63.8 billion. That's a mythbuster for a lot of people. We all love the arts, right? They bring us joy, they make us feel creative, they really create the communities that we want to live in. But the fact is, they're businesses. Few industries generate the kind of event-related spending that the arts do. It's $102.5 billion in event-related spending by arts audiences. So you add that up, 63.8 spending by organizations, an additional 102.5 billion in spending by their audiences, and you get a $166.3 billion industry every year. Arts organizations are good business citizens.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So those two videos, those are new, and those preface the actual walk through the economic impact here. And here, as you can see, this is where you fill in your statistics, and then it does the calculation.
I was going to share just the same one that he shared with us from the Weezer Fiddle Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to walk through as I enter the data?
Yeah.
So one of the facts he shared with us was that during the Weezer Fiddle Festival, the population of Weezer is doubled, right? For everyone that's visiting and attending the performances. So you basically select your population size, your total expenses, which for us, he said we could aggregate. We could combine concerts on Broadway, Treasure Valley Children's Theater, any of Mac's programming really, but then also include MSO and Treasure Valley Children's Theater if we'd like. And so you hit calculate, and it comes up with your totals down below. So the local government revenue from the Weezer Fiddle Festival last year was $10,578, and the state taxes paid back were $17,152, and that supported 9 full-time jobs. And then his one caveat that I think he would share with City Council as well is that they did a massive study, and this is kind of the aggregate average of, they made their calculations based on assumptions from that large United States study. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily the case that exactly 9 jobs were created from the Weezer Fiddle Festival. That's their estimate based on the aggregate of information that they pulled into their model.
Mm-hmm. I think that is valuable information too, because it gives you an opportunity to look at what your staffing is, what dependent upon the impact of your event, how many full-time jobs would be needed according to national statistics and averages to staff efficiently for the event. I think that's also an interesting way to use this tool.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
he said that they tested it on a bunch of different situations and it came out 95% accurate each time. And then another notable fact that he gave us was anytime they handed out a grant, the taxes that were created from all of the activities, the artist activities and the audience activities, always added up to more than the grant was that was given. So this is I find that a powerful reason to support the arts financially.
Very powerful. If you get more than you spend, that's good.
Good return.
It's a good return. So we also talked about, so if you guys are all on board, we'll get Stuart lined up as soon as, he said his Tuesday evenings are usually relatively clear. I asked him if he had any conflicts, and he said he didn't, for February and March, where we'd kind of been looking at putting this. And he said he's pretty open. He can arrange a Tuesday night, so he'll be here with us. We were also thinking, how can we introduce the commission to City Council at this event? And so we thought it might be interesting to come up with some facts about the arts. And I wish I had because I wrote these down last night. Did you write down what we'd come up with, Hillary? On the fun facts?
It's not with me.
Okay. Well, so fast forward to the end result. We'll each be given, and you guys can come up with your own too, but we came up with a series of fun facts, things people might not actually know about the arts that are one quick short sentence. And so we can introduce, hi, I'm Leslie Malden, and did you know that? And so with each introduction, we also, it also gives us a comfortable, we'll have something to offer at that moment, and then at the end, we'll give it to Stuart, and then we'll wrap it up. So if you guys have fun facts that you want to come up with, that'd be awesome. We're hoping to have a fun fact from visual arts, a fun fact from performing arts, a fun fact from juggling, a fun, just it can be quirky, but it needs to be statistical as well. So that
Madam Chair,
yes, Jessica.
One that I remember from yesterday, just as an example, I think he said each year 6 million people attend NFL games, and each year 24 million people attend symphony performances. So that's a big difference, and you can imagine all the extra money that comes into cities from those performances as well.
Space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that fun fact?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, but thank you, Jessica. That's what we're talking about. Things like this that have numbers in them, as well as it's interesting to know. I mean, you can sit there and talk about it like we were last night about, well, football's a season and symphony is all year round and football. But it's interesting to think that the impact, what did he say? There are 11 major football stadiums where people attend. And in the arts, how many concert halls nationwide do we have that symphony orchestras perform in? It's just prolifically, the difference is that from the small to the large houses, they're filled all year round. And so that's where, obviously the numbers, but we think of sports as the biggest entertainment field, live entertainment field, at least I do. When actually, the numbers don't prove that out. So fun stuff. So is everybody all right with that? And having said that, we also, we need to choose a date that works for everyone, since we do want this to be inclusive and have everyone. So Hillary, could you get us started on that process to choose a date and what would work for City Council?
Yeah, so I know that they have, CJ, my boss, had asked me if you guys would be interested in the workshop day, which is the second Tuesday of each month, so that would be February 12th. That is earlier in the day, so that's a 3 o'clock meeting? Okay, that's a 3 o'clock meeting. So I don't know if you guys, you guys would be a community item, so those are usually earlier on in the agenda. So I don't know if that can work for all of your schedules or necessarily for Stuart's schedule. But we could, if you guys want to choose maybe that day and another day in February that could work, we could check with Stuart to see what would work better for him as well.
Well, let's make it quick. How many of us would the 3 o'clock time be a problem for?
Later?
On the 12th?
On the 12th.
I'm okay with that.
Because that might make it, Jessica, is that?
I could probably make that work.
Councilman Borton just said that we could do it later in the agenda too.
Oh.
Because their meetings have been going very long.
Welcome to a fast-growing city, right? It's exciting. We could, yeah, I think if they think that would be the best type of meeting, then yeah, I think that works for me.
If we can do it later.
Later?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll aim for that and try to get a good estimate for a time that's later, that's closer to 5, as long as that could work for, yeah.
Okay, and can you reach out to Stuart?
Yeah.
As well. Also, we had planned on, having music filling the hall in the beginning. Would that work for your students? Because that would be as they were walking in before the meeting started.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
If you guys are coming in mid-meeting, though, that might be kind of, that might take away from your time. My only concern.
Oh, no, we just had talked to the mayor about having it be, it wouldn't take any of the meeting time. It would just be while people are walking in. So that we can revisit that at the agenda meeting too, agenda setting meeting, and make sure that that still suits her idea. And that wouldn't be part of the meeting time. It would just be like prelude. So good. Is there anything else from our planning committee that I've missed? Jessica, Jennifer? Okay, great. Thanks for having those videos ready for us. And we might have to decide which one we want to use or work more with Stuart on that, because what's the combined time of each of those videos? The first one's 2 minutes.
He said they were both 2 minutes, but the first one seemed shorter than the second one to me.
Yes, doesn't it? Oh, well. But that's all right. Okay, good. So, awesome. We will, to be determined, yeah, we haven't said it, so be watching for, you know, I'll email you to find out when we can meet next. We forgot to set our next meeting last night. Okay, moving on to new business F, the Public Art Committee report.
Okay, Madam Chair, we met on December 22nd. First item on the agenda was the awards program that Coeur d'Alene does, so that's, I don't think we have to go over that again. And then Art Week 2019. Goals include incorporating all arts into the week activities. So again, just expanding on the things that we've done. So the chalk art on the street, the Meridian paints where we've got the big panel that people paint just parts of, art drop, incorporating the concert on Broadway, which would be, you know, during that or something would be a great time, I think, to give the awards for the mayor's awards, if that could happen, at least initially. Yeah. And then perhaps something like face painting, things to engage all families, possibility of a filmmaking workshop, art drop again, I think I said that, to basically, again, be focused in the downtown area, but not to exclude people who want to drop things in like neighborhoods, which really might even broaden the interest within the city if there's such things going on in the neighborhoods over the week.
Had you mentioned at one point also having a literary component added?
Yes. We had initially talked about like maybe a poetry slam, or readings of some sort, and this is really small.
That is small.
An art walk is something, because there's some of the businesses downtown that are already incorporating art in their venues, and to try to maybe expand on that so that there really could be an art walk, or at least a list of places that are hosting art for people to walk through on maybe the Friday night and Saturday night. So, Stephanie, anything else from the notes?
No, but you mentioned like the poetry slam, we talked about that, and I reached out and I have not heard back from the cowboy poets, because I know that some of that can be really fun too. So I'm trying to see if we can find some. And we would asked about, what is it, the something in 8, but I don't think it's that time of the year, the little short skit.
8 and 48.
48.
Yeah, when is that? When does that happen?
They do it every 2 years, don't they?
It's usually every 2 years, and it is around this time. But I don't know if the Children's Theater is going to be able to host that again this year or not. I think they would like to. They did just get a new home, so they might be able to do something there too. So it's a little bit outside of Old Town downtown, but it's still technically downtown. They're off of Meridian and Penwood now. So we'll follow up with Treasure Valley Children's Theater to see if they can continue to host something during Art Week.
Great.
And the committee's always interested in hearing other ideas too, you know, that people might want to think might be a good genre to build on and within the week. And focusing most of the activities on the Friday and Saturday, mostly on the Saturday when families are typically free.
When it's not Football Friday.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have an off-the-cuff idea. I know that kids are a draw, like if there's a kids activity. What if we have a professional artist just doing very simple, so it doesn't cost much, just paper and pencil, a professional artist showing all the kids how to draw something.
Just something?
That'd be nice too. And you know, another thing that's kind of fun to do, if you can find people who are willing to put their instruments into it, is an instrument petting zoo. I love those, where the kids can go in and where they're just, you know, very carefully monitored, of course. We don't want any guitars slamming, but where they can go in and they can get their hands on an instrument and draw the bow across the strings and blow into a trumpet. And it's just, I love those.
I wonder if Dunkley's would
Dunkley's, good idea.
loan out some like instruments that they use for lessons and things like that, because those instruments are used to
Yeah.
being handled a lot.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Hillary and I actually did a little bit of investigation on that back when we were doing the art in the park. I ran into problems with finding somebody to do it. I don't know if you ended up finally finding somebody that sometimes does that. They weren't willing to risk their equipment.
They weren't.
Yeah, the only people that seemed like they were willing was Dunkley's, and they were already, they were like booked the next weekend or something for the kid, or maybe the community block party. But if we can contact them ahead of time, maybe that would, or further ahead of time, that might help with their scheduling of staff to make sure that they could accommodate it. So I can reach out to Dunkley's as far as that goes, and try to make that work. If not, there might be other options too, like music instructors that are in the area that might have a few smaller instruments that they might work with kids on. There's that Meridian Art and Music organization. They might be able to do something, and I hadn't reached out to them.
Aren't they located close to downtown? Don't they have?
There's two that have very similar names. So I think Meridian Art and Music is downtown, and then there's another one that spells Mac, and it's off of U-Stick. And the one that's off of U-Stick, I think, works with children a lot more. So yeah, we've got a few other people now that we've wrangled in that we might be able to inquire with.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this might be
Jennifer.
something that we could do with the Meridian Symphony, where we don't want to leave these instruments unsupervised.
Right.
So if we could have an expert from the symphony be at each station, and then in particular with the winds and brass, we need them cleaning the mouthpieces between each person. We've done this up in Sun Valley many years.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and very successfully. It's very loud though. So if you want to call attention, this is one way to get everyone in an area. So.
Very good. I like sound. So good. Let's consider exploring those ideas, and the events and outreach. Maybe can work on the events. Maybe that would fall under the events and outreach committee to follow up some of those leads.
That was the Events and Outreach Committee, yeah.
So we would, right, continue down that path. Good. Anything else?
I would volunteer as the petting zoo liaison if you want. So
Thank you. That's perfect. Very good. All right. So if there's something else to add there, we will go on to, then you're ahead of us. You've got your next meeting scheduled. Good. All right, so we have some old business items. The initial point gallery application process.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Did we, Jessica, did you want to cover anything for Public Art Committee report?
Well,
I'm
we
sorry.
haven't met since our last full MAC meeting.
I think the art stuff kind of covers most
Yeah.
of it, right? Okay.
Yeah, so we're meeting next Thursday, and we'll have an update then for our February meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. I kind of skipped over. All right, events and outreach, we've kind of covered that. So going to the initial point gallery application process. Bonnie, are you going to?
I think that's me.
Hillary?
We had brought this up,
Bonnie.
2 months ago, and then last month again. So I drafted a call for you guys to consider. I think I did make one change to this since, again, I included it in your packet. But essentially, this kind of beefier, wordier area could be included on just the website page to outline the prospectus and eligibility and so on. And then the application, this was what I wanted to ask you about. So this is what was our kind of standard application. I did want to ask you guys if we should exclude the option to fill the entire Innish Point Gallery with two-dimensional work. We have been trying to include multiple artists each month. It seems like if someone asked to fill half of it, it's someone that we could always reach out to and ask if they would be interested in filling more. It's easier to ask them about more than to say, like, oh, you asked to fill the whole gallery and now you get a quarter of the gallery. So it's something that I don't know if we should include on there, or that if it doesn't bother you guys, we can leave it there. That was just something I wanted to bring up since you are filling multiple artists in each gallery space. Sorry.
That should be taken. What do you think, Bonnie? I think that if we feel that the best plan going forward and what's gotten more people to the gallery has been shared galleries, do we want to keep that bullet point on there, filling the entire gallery? I don't know what.
Madam Chair,
confusing.
I think I had made the suggestion that perhaps we change the wording to be something like, upon selection, we will determine what the amount of gallery space with that each artist would fill it with, as opposed to specifically. I mean, if somebody asks, if they see that and they check fill the whole gallery, and then they don't want to fill just a fourth of it or something like that, I think that's a little awkward. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we indicate that there's, they're applying to do a show and it'll be a multiple artist show, we can determine at that point then what they'll show, how much they'll show.
Right. So
Thinking
that is covered in the prospectus of the gallery. I believe it says MAC aims to have multiple artists in each space each month. But I guess that could be interpreted to only be a 2D full gallery artist and a 3D artist.
So then I don't think I would include the full.
I think it's easy enough to exclude it.
I personally would exclude it, I think.
Okay. And then if there's someone that we know and really love, or that they have a stellar application, we could always ask if they'd like to expand that exhibit.
Right.
If we did need to do or want to do a full show.
Right. It doesn't limit those opportunities for us to make that decision if it makes sense, but it doesn't, in the meantime, it's more consistent with what's in the prospectus if we don't have the one about filling the entire gallery, I think. I agree with Bonnie.
Okay, so in that regard then, most of the prospectus or this text area would be the same as what was included for the online juried shows call, essentially. So it makes sure to call out that sales are managed by the artist directly. Lodging and transportation is the responsibility of the artists. We had put in the prospectus for online juried shows for the artists to tell us if they were interested in having live music at their gallery reception. And so instead of leaving it up there, I moved that down to here. So that is the only other addition to the gallery application. Please let us know if any of the following apply to you. And then I listed the names, or listed a place where they could put names for the artists that they're interested in showing with, if they did have another artist they knew was applying. And then the 2 bullets on musical talent.
Well, I would like to invite my own musical talent to play at my reception. Since it is in a city building, would we need to approve those acts?
I can write in there that the acts would need to be approved.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. Just so, I I doubt we'll ever have, you know, gangster rap in the art gallery, but, you know, never know.
That's right.
It could happen.
Could happen.
I'll ask you about that language.
Mariachi band.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. So to clarify then, we've made the one change to take out the bullet about filling the entire gallery, and then we're going to add that we need approval. I love the idea that the artists suggest their own musicians, because it also gives us an idea of, you know, it gives us more input there from a different part of the community as to what they like in music. But that way, as long as we just can approve it, that'd be great.
Good call.
As long as we get to, as long as it's approved.
Yeah.
The music is approved, I think.
And we could even, you know, we wouldn't even have to do that as an entire commission. We could have the Public Art Committee that, or, you know, I mean, I'm sure, because we're not looking for the music to be on a Steinway and be professional. What we're looking for is to make sure that the music is appropriate. And so I think that's you know, if we wanted to do that by committee, I'd be fine with that too, as opposed to having to wait for the commission meetings. How do you feel about that, Bonnie? As far as using our committees to streamline the process for the approval of the musicians, as opposed to having it come before the whole commission?
Right. I think so.
Let's utilize our committee on that. Is that all right with you?
If it's okay with you, it could maybe be either the committee or a liaison, just to make sure that someone from the Arts Commission has reviewed what's going on. I think anybody would I mean, we're all going to recognize swearing, you know, and
Yeah.
that's not appropriate. I think that there's a number of people that might be able to step in if a committee couldn't meet in time, if we could have maybe the members of that committee also empowered to say yes or no if they're the only ones that can.
Yes, individually as a liaison. Yeah, totally agree with that. Yes. I love our committees. This is just, really is.
I don't know, maybe you could, would it be appropriate just to say that the music has to be for general audiences? Can you do that?
Madam Chair, we have some policy language that we can reformat to work for this context. Right. That it is for park sponsorships, and we also use it for concerts on Broadway. So we can apply that standard to here.
Perfect.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll get rid of that one bullet, and then we'll add that language in the policy language here. And great. Thank you, Hillary. Thanks, Bonnie. Now, considering we're making a couple of changes, do we want to wait till we have that policy language in place, or because it's already been approved for use by Parks and Rec, could we approve this document as amended so that we can move forward? The only real amendment we're making today is to take the one bullet for the filling the entire gallery, and then to add the policy language with regard to the music selection.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend that you empower Hillary to kind of wordsmith what it says on the application itself, and we can have just a note. It's not long for a policy, but it's a large chunk of text that you probably don't want right there. So we need to think of a good way to mention it by reference, I think. If you're comfortable with it, I can probably find it if you'd like to read it, but it talks about profanity and inappropriate, protects civil rights and sensitive ears and broad audience. And it's a public place, so I think it would apply here. But if you would authorize us to just kind of mess with that, how it looks on there,
yes,
that might be the best way to proceed.
Yes. Everyone in agreement that, thank you. All right, so is there anything else then for the initial Point Gallery application process that we need to consider? Any more questions? All right, so they will go on to wordsmith that policy section, and we will go forward. Annual report to the City Council. Hillary.
Yes. I had included your drafted annual report that we had reviewed last month, and then your updated annual report. There was only a couple of recommendations from Leslie to include some additional facts about the outreach done for concerts on Broadway. So I wanted to make sure to share both of those with you here so that you could see them. But I will go ahead and really quickly call out those changes. So again, it was just for concerts on Broadway that those changes occurred, and it starts kind of here. 2 of our performers did public outreach and so forth. I had no other suggested changes to the drafted document.
Because I thought that was a big addition, the actual outreach events to concerts on Broadway, as opposed to, because we've had student openers, and so we involve student artists that way, and this way we're spreading that out. And the Boys and Girls Club was such a wonderful location and reached so many kids that it was just something that we'd like to keep going, so I thought it would be worth a mention. Thank you for this, Hillary. It looks great. Did everybody else get a chance to look it over and make sure that we didn't forget anything awesome? Okay. Good. And can you tell, so we've also decided, Hillary was telling us last night, could you update them about the fact that we're going to put the presentation together with?
Sure. So again, I had been talking to my boss, CJ Coles, and we had talked about combining the economic report with the MAC annual report. So essentially to be able to do those, not simultaneously, but basically the economic report first, and then get through, the Arts Commission, Stewart, Arts Commission again, and then for our annual report to basically just be a 5-minute highlight of the highlights. Council will have this typed report before them, so they will be able to read everything in there. So we don't have to read it word for word, but just to pull out some of the key components, like those additions to things that didn't exist previously, or some successes that we saw with Art Week or the gallery, just to highlight something new that they might not be familiar with. So it will be a very condensed version of our typical annual report.
I think it's another opportunity for us to, to utilize our committees. We can decide what we want to bring out and highlight, and then we can have the appropriate committee manage that short section. Say, I'm Leslie Maldonado with the Strategic Planning Committee, and we want to talk about, assign a lead, a point person, a lead cast member, if you will, to handle that highlight so that they can see our committees working as well. So we'll find out. If everybody could look over the document and choose what you think needs a highlight, then we can kind of decide who will get to highlight each section. So, yeah. Great. So the annual report now will be included, just for clarification, on February 12th, as long as we can get Stuart for that day. Great. So we are to reports. Alexa Rose.
Yes, I think you guys were a little bit more heavily involved in discussions about the Alexa Rose workshop last year, but since you were in favor of hosting them last year, when they reached out to us this year, we said, yeah, we'd love for you to present somewhere in Meridian, basically just saying, yes, there's people here that would attend your workshop. It was fairly well attended last year. I think there were about 40 people there. Mm-hmm. And this year, the Meridian Library offered us the opportunity to have them in their space, because it is seen as more of a public space. I liked doing it downtown at the Tea House, because then people patronize the Tea House. Mm-hmm. But the library might be that much more approachable and also encouraging for a wide variety of types of artists to apply. So Megan Egbert at the Meridian Library helped coordinate with Lily from the Alexa Rose Foundation for the time and date. So it is January 30th from 7 o'clock. Technically it's 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. It's only really an hour, but we have it reserved through 9 so that people can ask questions and do follow up with the Alexa Rose board members that are there. So again, if you're not familiar with the Alexa Rose Foundation, it's an annual grant that's specifically tailored to individual artists in the Treasure Valley. So organizations can't apply, but individual artists can. I think last year Randy B applied, I applied, might as well apply. And we have seen a number of people that are interested in taking that class already. It's posted on Facebook, and it's something that we've shared through our Facebook page as well. If you can go, please go to the workshop.
Yeah. I missed it last year, but I heard it was just amazing. And to have 40 people show up for the first one that's been held in Meridian, I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to try to make this one this year. So are there any questions, comments on that? If not, we'll move on to the initial point gallery report.
Well, this month we did not have an opening because the show it's the same show that was hung the 1st of December. It goes through the end of January. But we did have on Tuesday, we had 2 of the artists that are showing did demos for a couple of hours. And I was here for the first demo, and it was fairly well attended. And Hillary, do you know, was there some attendance to the second demo?
Yeah, she had like a small handful of people that were there. She had, I think it was 3 when I went up around 5, and they probably left by 5:30. She was, I mean, with watercolor, sometimes you're waiting for water to dry. So, so they stayed till about 5:30, and then Joyce and I talked about watercolor and travel. It was good.
It was a nice addition, and I think that I know in the March gallery opening, at least one of the artists is going to bring her process, which is fabric art, and go through, I mean, not actually sewing it, but at least her process of putting together a piece of art. And then perhaps the paper artist will do the same.
I think she would be willing to, yeah. My
All right.
only other update for Initial Point Gallery was that the host schedule is linked on this item. So if you haven't already signed up to host, please get on there and sign up to host the reception.
And where's that posted? I'm sorry.
So when you click on the agenda and
Oh,
then you click on Initial Point Gallery reports,
Great.
it takes you to this and says click this link to view the schedule and other receptions that have been claimed. And then it'll take you directly to this link so that this is updated. It's just through Google, so it's updated as people edit it.
Okay.
So go up there and sign up for your spot. The receptions, I don't know what to call them. They're really not receptions in May, are really just from 5 to 6. And that's because we want to make sure that the gallery is open past 5 for working families that want to still be able to come in and see their kids' art on display in City Hall. So it won't be the same reception table and snacks and drinks and stuff, but we want to make sure that people that work a job can still get out there and see their kids' work in a gallery. And that's going to be every Thursday of that month. So we'll be here, technically. I mean, there's planning and zoning on Tuesdays that you guys aren't in here, and history on the other Thursday that you guys aren't in here. Building will be.
I can do. I'll sign up for some of those student nights.
Okay.
Very good. All right.
If you just want to tell me a month that works for you, just tell me, and I can go fill it in on my own. So.
I'll take the 9th of May. And I'll have to check my schedule. I might also be able to take the 4th Thursday as well. I'll check it and then I'll go back in.
Okay.
All right. Good. Any more questions or comments about Initial Point Gallery? Great. We are to the approval of the monthly expenses.
Oh, no.
Oh, what happened?
Hold on. I have to navigate to you. Let me think of the best way to do this. I provided you guys the wrong link, so I'm going to go to History's link because that's the other group that I work with the most. And their financial statement. Go. Mac, you're down here. So you can look at all your transactions.
Here we are.
You actually don't have anything for,
Kind of
for
a quiet time of
January.
year for us.
Yeah. You had some postage usage. And then your online juried show, that show closed. So it's interesting because they collected fees from us, but then a portion of that, it was like per PayPal or per credit usage, we were also charged. It was just deducted from our event check that was gathered, but the way that finance had to break it out was as an expense versus as revenue. So you also received revenue from online juried shows as well.
Okay. Good. If there's nothing to be brought up for clarification, or if there are no questions, we would consider a motion on the monthly expenses.
I move that we approve the monthly expenses.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then we have the admin report. Hillary. That's okay. I'm rushing through.
I think it's very brief. Committees, that's the same thing I'm just going to include in every single admin report. You guys are doing great at letting me know when your committee meetings are. I again, just kind of, since we didn't determine the strategic plan committee next meeting, I did call out, though, that it had been traditionally on Thursdays around 10 a.m. at Coffee Studio, just because I don't know if we're going to go back to that or not. We kind of covered the gallery already. And again, it just asks you to make sure to claim a host space. And then I had a general admin update, just because it's been a crazy planning time of year. If you're a commissioner that's thinking, I wish I had more to do right now, you just holler, and I will find something for you to do. Basically, that's the summary of that. The commissioner terms, we've got 3 commissioner terms expiring at the end of February. And Stephanie, I don't know if you're interested in reapplying or not. So I want to bring it up just because I think maybe we should bring some treats to February. And she's still going to be involved in Art Week stuff and involved on that committee. But yeah, I think we should celebrate Stephanie and bring some treats. And then I also think that we want to consider moving the February meeting date, because currently it's scheduled for Valentine's Day. So unless you want a romantic evening with me, you might want to reconsider, or you might want to consider rescheduling it to a different day.
Well, my dance card's empty, but for the rest of you.
And then 2 other quick highlights. We don't have to talk about that necessarily right now, because we can talk about it for our next meeting date. Concerts on Broadway conversations are still taking place. I know that got a lot of people excited at the last meeting. And then I have a phone call scheduled with Cherie and Brittany that will help cover Dairy Days, some Concerts on Broadway items, and some Meridian Art Week items, since I know we've kind of brought that up for those various activities that we're thinking about for Art Week that could be incorporated with the Meridian Main Street Market. And Cherie and Brittany were the same people that had helped organize the other events in Story Park, so I was going to reach out to them first to see if they'd be interested in working with the Dairy Board for that. And if they aren't, then I'll reach out to those other arts organizations like Bosco and TVAA and so on.
Since Concerts on Broadway is mentioned here in the admin update, I forgot to, last time we talked about that I would be going to the sponsors and with the move to the fall, and they are both very, very excited about it, our title and presenting sponsors. So that conversation went very well. And we also have a new sponsor, Idaho Power. So,
Yeah. That's it for my admin report.
So, Madam Chair,
yes,
I
Bonnie.
would like to have asked that we could move the meeting to the 7th, even though some of us don't have full dance cards, but
Okay.
I'm going to be out of town on the 13th or the 14th.
Okay, good. So can we consider moving that to the 7th? I mean, because we do have several missing, we'd still have to go through the process, but it's a...
We might have a public art committee meeting that day. No, we don't. It's on the 21st. So yeah, the 7th is okay.
Okay, so,
The only thing I'm worried about is the availability of this room. Because planning and zoning meets typically, I think at 6 o'clock. So we just want to make sure to coordinate with planning and zoning. But I will aim for 7 o'clock and I will, or the 7th, and I will confirm via email with you all if we can reschedule it to then.
okay, great.
It would be available by phone if,
By phone.
during that time, if you can't move it.
All right, so that brings us to our final motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Yes, I made it my goal of getting us done by 5.
Thank you.